Make sure you can hear us. Everything sounds good.
Good.
Yep, good.
Test. 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
All good.
Should I take? Oh, you got it attached to this. So.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. We're back here with another ILTACON live session, our inaugural ILTACON live sessions here live from the floor at ILTACON from the Gaylord National Harbor. I'm Josh Smith. I'm GRC manager from Ogletree Deacons, but also an avid ILTACON and ILTA volunteer. And I'm here today with our friends from Epic. So, Tiana, if you'll introduce yourself, and then we'll give it over to Igor.
Yeah, of course. So my name's Tiana Van Dyke. I'm the managing director at Epic. I focus very highly on development and strategy around our AI business and around the Canadian business specifically as well.
Awesome.
Igor Labutov. I had the newly formed Epic AI Labs and really focus on the research and development behind some of the new technologies we're rolling out at Epic.
Awesome. So, welcome to ILTACON 2025. This is the 45th year of ILTA. Tell us what your first impressions are here at ILTACON.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
So this is probably my 5th or 6th ILTACON. And last year I noticed that there was a lot of buzz, but this year there seems to be an increased confidence in people in the technology piece. I think for me, that's a really exciting focus, where last year we were talking about it's here, the year before we talked about it's coming. And now that we're fully entrenched in the use of technology, people are like, I want to know more. I want to hear more. Let's talk about just what we could do with it. And I think that's really exciting because we're now in a bit more of a comfort place.
Right. Yeah, we kind of had the same conversations with others about how we were, even with AI, and we'll get there in a minute. It's like the thought about it and what could we possibly do with it. We've moved to the practical application of generative AI and all of our tools now. So it's kind of similar to that.
Yeah.
So Igor, tell us what your thoughts are.
I think it's interesting to hear sort of from the perspective of technology, how people are perceiving it now that there's been several years of generative AI being exposed in this space. There's still a lot of buzz around some of these concepts. What's agentic? How does this relate to generative AI? I think people are starting to try to dig a little bit deeper and kind of understand what this means. I think a lot of these concepts aren't as difficult as they aren't that different from what we're already used to in many ways. And I think what's been interesting to hear are conversations that people are having now, kind of that go beyond maybe some of the buzz, trying to get under the hood a little bit and compare these things in a way that's more objective. I think some of the conversations I've had were, more centered around what's behind agentic AI. How is that different from generative?
And good.
Yeah, and I think the part about that's interesting is what I think people are going to get out of this year's conference is a bit more understanding. We're going to talk about trust later today and building trust in agentic models. But looking at something like Epic AI Labs and how we bring together people to talk about what are their concerns, what are the things that they're worried about, so that we can start actioning and overcoming some of those. I think people are going to have that here. And the more that we open up the dialogue around that, people are going to leave here with practical ways that they can use AI safely, or that they can trust AI and know how to validate it, which of course is the most important component. If that's what people get out of this conversation, that's what I want to be talking about while we're here this year.
That's perfect, because you hear trust is very important with AI. You hear all the stories of the sanctions from the courts with people citing or generative AI hallucinating cases that aren't actual case law, and they show up in a brief, and it's like that's not accurate, and that's not accurate, and that's not accurate. So that trust is really important.
I mean, we've faced that before, though. Any time you do garbage in, garbage out, that's been a term that we've used for
years,
years,
decades even,
right? The technology and people and process piece of e-discovery specifically, but of anything in legal technology, has always been a driving factor on the outcomes.
Right.
When we look at how people who generated that kind of content were using AI, we can lean very heavily on the process and the people as to why the results turned out like that. So as we better those things, we're empowering people to feel more confident in the outcomes.
Right.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of lessons to learn from these previous generation technologies like TAR. I think as soon as, kind of to my first point there, as you start kind of taking away the buzz terms like agentic and seeing these things really as systems for what they are, right? They're systems of these more advanced AI components, LLMs, generative AI more broadly, then you kind of start to think about, okay, how do I turn that back into the same questions I asked before with first generation, right? Like machine learning, input output measurement. To your point, how what are the lessons we could learn in terms of metrics we could reuse, and what are the new things we need to develop in order to be able to test these things in an end-to-end way, component-wise, and ultimately, how do you bring this back to the same conversations that we had with the first generation machine learning?
Right. So are you seeing requests for enhanced adoption of AI from your clients and from the people here at ILTACON? Like, you have those conversations with folks like, hey, how can I use this, or how can you help me use this in my environment?
So we're definitely seeing people become more interested in exploring these technologies, right? And also more interested in building out agents within their own operational sort of workflows. There's more access to these frameworks now, and there's potential for more integrations, which is, again, what kind of a system-wide approach to these AI components brings. So I think there's a lot more interest in seeing how the same technologies that have been used for decades in TAR, right, in contract review, could now automate components of other workflows, or entire workflows, or components of those workflows.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, you're definitely seeing people interested. I mean, nobody wants to get left behind.
Exactly.
I think that we're a little bit in a place where the people who would usually lean towards inaction don't want to get left behind. And so what they're doing is looking at standing at the precipice of change and trying to decide if they're comfortable with it. And so they're coming to us, they're asking questions. I want to use this. What are some safe applications? What are some easy applications? What are some low risk applications? Which I think is a great mechanism to get your foot in the door.
Right.
But those people there's a lot of people who are still standing at that verge of saying, I'm right here, but I'm not quite ready to step. And so that makes our job challenging but exciting, because it's how do we help them understand how to cross into that new territory that feels so foreign but is more similar to what they're used to than they realize.
Right. Well, that really leads into my next question. What can people expect if they come by Epic's booth here at ILTACON? You've already said some of those conversations are happening. What else can they learn from you and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I mean, we want to talk a lot about what we're developing with Epic AI Labs. That's something that we want to bring, I want you to talk about it, because it actually is one of your brainchilds.
I mean, I think, one of the points I try to make is kind of on this curve of adoption of new technologies, right? Like, we are really in that fast rising part of the curve, right? A lot of excitement happening very quickly. I think there are parallels to other applications of AI and like self-driving technologies where there's lots of change happening quickly. But because in a sense, the component, the building blocks, the models themselves are relatively easy to deploy. But when it comes to building out a functional piece of software that has to sit within, a larger workflow, there has to be a long-term investment into building out the architectures, testing it, right? Validating it with real-world data, or validating it with benchmarks that it can test for various, hallucination, kind of leading up to the trust component, all of that. And so with labs, with the Epic AI Labs, what we are building out really is a long-term focused environment where we not only prototype technologies and tools, build out an infrastructure for evaluating them on a consistent basis so that we can scale up the way that we develop, right? Development itself is changing, right? But go beyond sort of the theoretical, beyond exploration, and bring it into actual products that clients could get their hands on. The Epic AI Discovery Assistant is one of the products that we currently have, and the things that we develop as part of the labs, which itself is really a group of AI research engineers, people at Epic who contribute with their expertise in service, so that we can integrate sort of the experience that Epic has with the technology and the resources that we have in development, and bring it to clients.
What I would want somebody coming to the booth to say, like if they catch me at the booth, I want them to ask a hard question. I want them to bring me a problem and watch how we solve it kind of on the spot, or how we try to solution it using our technologies, using workflows and best practices. Because what I want people to see is that the way we're approaching this is different. We're not just selling you a product. We're not just trying to give you something to buy. We're a partnership that answers the questions that you need answers to. And I think that is uniquely different in a traditional technology space where there's like a workflow and it's linear and there's a button and a next button. But what we are trying to do with what we're building together is create something that people can use for any version of their unique case.
Right.
So you can come to our booth and you can ask me for those, and I will, we'll work with you and try to answer some of those questions so that you understand how you might take our technology and layer it into your solution.
There's a lot of value in that, because even in our organization, we've gotten requests from our knowledge and innovation teams that, hey, we need an environment where we can develop something. We can build out a solution. We might not know exactly what the product end looks like, but we want to be able to play and explore. And it sounds like you guys are doing that on a massive scale, and that's really encouraging here.
Yeah. I think that's a really important piece of how we build faster adoption of the technology, is saying, this technology isn't just a bundle of use cases.
Right.
It is as much or as little as you need it to be in any situation, and let's work through that together.
Awesome.
And part of that also is part of the lab's initiative is not just to R&D and to bring technology, but also to share our experience in prototyping and building what we call that lab environment. Because a lab environment is more than just building out something new. It's about creating a mechanism, workflows around testing it, right? How do you ensure that all of these checkboxes that you now need to control for when it comes to things that could produce whole documents, right? That could be involved in complex workflows or even decision makings as part of that workflow, which these systems are increasingly becoming capable of. So helping clients develop what we call their own lab within their own environment. We started the labs before we joined Epic, kind of similarly at Sullivan and Cromwell. Sullivan and Cromwell was our lab early on. We learned a lot from them. We worked closely with them in prototyping, and we now scaled up that experience as part of Epic AI Labs at Epic. And I think there's a lot of the learnings that we'd like people to share with people, so that they could also apply the same type of methodology to new products that they're getting from their vendors, from their solution providers. Something that can be generalized rather than focusing, which I think is what I'm seeing often today, is too much focus on specific models. How great is this, GPT-5 or this new Llama model or whatever it may be? Which in some senses, it's an important question in some contexts, but generally it's not a scalable question to ask. You really want to focus on the processes around it. That's something that we're building increasing experience in.
That's really valuable, right? So is there anything else that you would advise people to do while they're here at ILTACON? Come by your booth, check it out, and have some conversations. Any other fun pointers that you've seen since you've been here?
Since I haven't been here that long, so I don't have that yet, but I want people to have the hard conversations when they come across people. I want you to challenge different vendors, different software companies. How are you solving my problem?
Right.
Because the gap that we have between adoption and hesitation really lies in the inability for people to see how the use cases you've put in marketing or that they've seen on the internet relate to their real life. And I want people to leave here empowered to use technology because they feel confident in it. So the questions around trust and how you'll build trust, the questions around, use cases, all of that is critical to us next year coming back and, talking about super complex multi-model engineering that we've, implemented because we've been so successful in what we've done in the last 12 months. I think people should be looking and asking those questions.
Awesome. It's really valuable to have those in-person conversations too.
It is, yeah.
And to create those relationships so you have someone that you can, one, identify with and have a point of contact that and you kind of build that trust with, and have them and come back next year and see what have we done and how have we grown. So I think coming in person, if you are here at ILTACON, obviously come by and say, hey, those in-person, networking connections are fantastic.
It's amazing when we hit COVID. I think people got so stuck in their little bubble, and we almost lost the ability to network and the ability to share information with people openly because we just, I don't know if we forgot.
Right.
But the truth is that these networking environments is where you should be sharing your ideas and your concepts and your philosophies, and everyone should be doing that. And we were just talking about this earlier. You know, when we all share our ideas, we raise the entire industry. That is the biggest benefit of conferences like this.
Yes.
All of these people coming together, sharing their insights. And when we assemble 20, 30, 40, 50 people's insights, we actually move the industry forward.
Exactly. It's a huge benefit of being here.
Yeah.
So for the people that aren't here, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you and learn more about it?
So you could get in touch with folks at the labs. I assume we have contact information on the labs page as far as broader Epic. I don't know, Tiana,
Yeah, I mean, we're very active on social media through LinkedIn. We've got all our pages. Many of our experts share individually across LinkedIn. We're, present at all of the major industry conferences. Myself and others speak at a lot of those conferences. We would just invite people to come pick us out of a crowd, ask us questions, engage with us on social media. Our website lists all of our different locations and experts. You can sort by function, by business line. You can get to all the people you need to talk to. And I would just say reach out.
Awesome.
Pick somebody off the website that sits inside an organization that you're interested in and reach out. We'd be more than happy to have a conversation.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So any other parting thoughts before we wrap it up for today?
I think they're good.
Igor's good? You're good?
No, I mean, that's it. This has been such an awesome conference in all the
yeah.
years. Can't wait to see what comes out of it this year.
Exactly. Same here. So thank you all for joining us. We'll wrap it up for now. This has been another ILTACON live session. Thank you so much for Tiana and Igor for being with us. We'll see you later in the conference.
Great.
Thank
you.
Yep.
Hello.
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 And it's Frugoli, right?
Yes,
Frugoli.
Frugoli, yes.
It's fun. Love this. And am I looking at the camera? No. No. Welcome to ILTACON live from the Gaylord National Harbor at the 2025 International Legal Technology Association's annual conference. I am Ari Kaplan, the principal of Ari Kaplan Advisors and one of the lucky hosts for this series. And I'm with the co-chairs. Nobody better. It's amazing. So I'm here with Donna Frugoli, the lead application support analyst at Cypress Shaw, and Brian Clark, the cybersecurity manager at Forzio, Bromberg, and Newman. Wonderful to see you both. How you doing?
Wonderful. Great to see you too, Ari.
Great to be here.
I just had an interview with Donna, and it was awesome. And I'm excited for this really wonderful encore. So, Donna, let's start with you. What's it like being a co-chair of ILTACON?
It is the most rewarding, overwhelming experience of my life to be able to be part of such a community that wants to learn and wants to contribute, wants to give their ideas to our sessions, want to speak at our sessions. It is just makes my heart sing every time I see this group come together.
Heart singing, Brian. I think that's going to be tough. But what do you see as the best part of serving in this role for ILTA?
Like Donna is saying, just the joy that this conference brings people. Like when I spoke with our keynote speaker, Ryan Campbell, it was terrific. And he asked, like, what's the audience like? And I said, it's tech, tech people working for law firms you wouldn't think would be the kind of people that would be so open and sharing, and but they are. Like, and it makes ILTA so unique, which makes ILTACON so unique. It's just the willingness of our audience to be there for each other, to support each other, to learn, but also to uplift others, and to be leading that, to be a part of it, to serve in some small role as a caretaker, during this time, is just amazing, and it's a privilege to do it.
Donna, tell us about your experience as a volunteer for ILTA. How long have you been volunteering?
I've been volunteering for ILTA over 15 years. I started with just contributing to the communities online, see somebody's question, answer their question, help write a blog, help write an article. And then that grew into being part of the content team that came up with the webinars that happen throughout the year and contributing to that. And then someone said, hey, you'd be great to speak at ILTACON. So I spoke at a session, and that person said, you'd be great to be part of the committee. So I started as a session coordinator, same time as Brian, same year, 2019. The two of us started as session coordinators together. And then we both became team coordinators together. And now we get to serve as co-chairs together. So I think that's just the most amazing thing, that we've been part of each other's journey for so long.
Absolutely.
There many years ago, I interviewed a leader in our space. She was working at a firm in Chicago. Her name is Joy Heath Rush. And it was very funny. I don't know if it was a year, maybe she was the co-chair, but I remember her enthusiasm as an attendee, as part of the volunteer community, and just wonderful to see what our leadership has done, what your leadership has done. Really, congratulations. So, Brian, what do you see as different about this year's ILTA conference than years past?
So every year it's a little bit different. That the venue changes, except between 26 and 27. Both years will be in Nashville. So there's different business partners here. There's ones that you always see. Like obviously, I manage and NetDocs are always going to be here, and then there's always startups, which is exciting. Companies just trying to break into the space. Every year the content is different. We try to evolve it. We don't run the same sessions every year, but we try to build upon sessions that really resonated with people. Like we saw a lot of sessions yesterday and today that were just chock full of people, and not just full of people, but full of people with questions, engaging with the speakers, engaging with each other. So we try to build on that. Every year we try to have content that's relevant to everybody. And I think we're hitting the mark so far. I'm happy with the conversations I've had with people. I try to pull an undercover boss on them and say, hey, see them in the elevator. Hey, you know, how did you like your session? Like, oh, it was great. Like, I really learned a lot. And they're like, hey, are you that pirate guy? And, you know, then they figure it
The
out.
pirate guy, he always gives it away. It's the bird.
Yeah,
The bird will give it away. You guys mentioned some large established companies and newer companies that have really grown up here. I actually was privileged to feature the CEO and others at Definely on my virtual lunch at noon, which I broadcast right from the show floor. And they talked about being here in the early years. And now that, a lot of these companies have become quite successful. How does the venue change the frame of reference as a coordinator? You mentioned it being in Nashville the next couple of years. It was Nashville last year. And so I like this space. I went to law school in DC. It's a nice area. How does that give you kind of, shape the canvas of what this is going to look like?
Yeah, it definitely changes who attends. When we're in DC, we get a lot of people. We've had FBI agents, we've had congressmen, we've had individuals who wouldn't necessarily come to our conference because it's further away. So we get to take advantage of some speakers availability that we wouldn't necessarily have in other areas. Earlier today, I went and was part of a group that is a DC group working on preventing sexual harassment. And I thought that was amazing. And anywhere else in the country, they probably wouldn't be able to attend. They're a not-for-profit organization. But because we're hosting it here, they're able to have their session here. So I thought that was amazing. You get to the Midwest now, you get a little bit different flavor of individuals who are attending, and a little bit more small firm comes there because that area is that way. So you do get a little local flavor, no matter where you hold the conference. But to be honest, Ari, we're outgrowing every space. We're in 11 hotels this time. And there's no sign of it getting smaller.
If you're in legal tech, you're in a good spot, and it's pretty interesting. So speaking of that, Brian, things are changing really fast. I mentioned to someone, it's like the bus is moving forward and people are trying to get on, get off, but the bus is still continuing in a direction and just accelerating in that. In an environment where the topics are ever changing, how do you anticipate what's going to be interesting now? I'm guessing several months ago you were determining what the topics would be. How do you make that assessment?
It's an excellent question. It's the committee works really hard to bring in those topics that are relevant, and we start in November, December, soliciting ideas and going through the ideas. We look for common themes, like what do people want to learn about? And one of our speakers said yesterday, like the pace of change has never been faster. So like you're getting at, like, hey, picking something in December or January, by August, is this still going to be relevant? So we try to pick topics that no matter what, even if certain things may happen in the news, like new features may come out, but we're still talking about, the general topic will be current. And if we need to, put in a slide or two about something, hey, this just happened last month, let's talk about this real quick. We do have, we leave an open session slot on each team for a just-in-time session as well, where that team may choose to hold back until around May or June before even developing anything. We're just going to hold it. It's just going to be an open slot on the ILTACON calendar, and then we'll decide what the content is going to be. So that's one way. We can't do that for every session. It would be way too frantic to start planning everything 3 months before a conference is big, but we do try to be agile in that way and recognize that, even with the best of intentions, things break fast, things happen fast, and the committee does a lot of hard work to try to make sure the sessions are meaningful, all of them.
Well, credit to the planning team, because the topics are absolutely timely, and it was happening quite a while back. So, Donna, there was a book signing today for Lessons in Leadership. I had just recently featured you on my own podcast, talking to you and your peers who contributed to the book.
Yeah.
What are the lessons from that book you'd like attendees at this year's conference to really take away?
Grow your network. Learn from others. Take every opportunity that you have as a learning opportunity. And anyone can be a leader. You don't have to have CIO in your title or manager in your title to lead. You can lead a small team. You can lead your family. There's always a place where that leadership can come out no matter what your title is. And when you have that, look back and help someone else step into that also so that we all can grow together.
Brian, where do people start this journey? So you mentioned leading smaller teams or picking up small projects, listening for those opportunities, but some people are not necessarily attuned to it. You're obviously the co-chairs of this enormous conference, but some people don't have that sort of natural ability. So what would you recommend as a place for people to get started, even in their ILTA journey?
So I'm a little bit biased, but as Donna mentioned before, we started on the same team together in 2019. And you mentioned Joy when she was working at Latera years ago. My first ILTACON was here in 2018. First opportunity to go. I had not really volunteered with ILTA at all. I might have hosted like a lunch and learn or breakfast at the firm I was working at in New York, but never really volunteered at scale for ILTA. And then Joy had a wrap-up session, and she just said, like, if you had a great week, if you love ILTACON, consider volunteering for part of the team. I felt like I got nothing to offer. I haven't volunteered before. I don't know what that is, but it's like, okay, Joy just had such, lack of a better word, joy in sharing, and I really felt compelled then. I was like, okay, well, I'll help out. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll help out. And when they interviewed me, I said, hey, it was my first conference. I loved it. I'll do whatever you need me to do. And I started out by being a session coordinator and helping come up with session ideas. So, conference planning committee is a great way to start. Many of our volunteers on the team, that's their first volunteering experience with ILTA, similar to Donna. So it's a great way to get started. It's a great way to meet people. There's a lot of micro learning or micro opportunities that if you don't want to commit to something for 8 months, which is understandable, but on the ILTA website, volunteer. There's a lot of different options there. So just pick something and you can contribute. Like, everyone has something valuable to share. Don't think that people don't want to hear from you or that you can't contribute, because you absolutely can.
Donna, how do you maintain stamina for a conference that takes place over multiple days and in such a large venue?
It is a marathon, not a race. And I think you hear that everywhere that you go. But you really need to take care of yourself as well as experience everything. You're going to have, FOMO is a real thing. You're going to be at one place, you're going to want to be somewhere else. So really looking at what the offering is, thinking about what you personally are here for. Are you here to meet with the business partners? Are you here to learn about a particular topic? Are you here to network with people? Should we be want to spend more time in the receptions? Then feel out what you want to gain and then build your week around that. And make sure that you give yourself time and grace to have a quiet moment and not be like, oh my gosh, I have got to run from the morning to night, because you will wear yourself out. There is no way that anyone could sustain that for an entire week.
Brian, Donna mentioned the idea of networking, and we have these little badges that turn colors. And so there you go. Amazing. How do you recommend that attendees leverage the technology that the conference offers to give them the greatest advantage?
Definitely the click is, it's a great way. You meet somebody, you have a great conversation after a session, and then they're like, instantly, if you're like me, you'll walk in the room, poof, their name is gone. With using the click technology, like, hey, I connected with this person, and then it has their information on there. So definitely the app has, all of our sessions there, and, all the receptions that are open to everybody. So we've really built up, what's available in that app, and we're always open to suggestions, like how can we make things better. Obviously it's not an app we're developing, but it's from the Visivo company, so we always try to leverage that and make it a little bit better year after year.
Well, I'm Ari Kaplan at the inaugural ILTACON Live, speaking with Donna Fragoli and Brian Clark, who are the co-chairs of this remarkable event. It's really been a privilege. Thank you both so much.
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna make the lecture live now. We're not going yet. You guys ready? All right, here we go. 3, 2.
Zach Posner, how are you?
Ted, I think this is podcast number three or
Well, at least we've done some with on your side too.
I want to say maybe 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To
To answer your question, I'm well.
good.
Anytime I get to be across from a mic from you, I'm excited to do so.
We always have fun. We
Yeah,
always
we
have
do.
fun. So first, welcome. This is the first inaugural ILTACON Live. We did this last year on our own at InfoDash. We just basically set up a booth out in the hallway. We had professional setup, but we decided to partner with ILTA this year because they've got more resources than we do.
Probably a lot easier.
Right, exactly, that too. So welcome. First, you guys had some news recently, the Legal Tech Fund. Why don't you give an intro? I think most people know what the Legal Tech Fund is, but just give us a quick intro on what it is.
Absolutely. So we're investing in early stage companies that are transforming the world of law. We have invested to date in 73 companies all across the globe. You know, we invest in companies that are software selling into law firms, similar to what you guys do, software selling into corporates, software selling into SMBs, and then all the way down to consumers as well. And it's we got a pretty awesome team, and we've been having a lot of fun the last couple of years.
Yeah, well, we're a portfolio company. You guys invested in us a year ago-ish. Yeah. And we've had a great experience. We were in the fortunate position to not really need a ton of capital because the way our licensing model works.
I would say a lot of our companies have not necessarily needed our capital, or a lot of our companies don't necessarily need a ton of capital either.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of, but they've fortunately chosen to work with us, and that's been just awesome.
Yeah. Well, you guys there's lots of intangibles besides just writing a check.
Yeah.
Your LPs, whatever it is you can share.
Look, our investor base is, a lot of them are strategic. We've announced law firms like McDermott, Will, and Schulte now.
That's right.
Not Emery. After their recent merger, law firms like Oric, companies like DocuSign, companies like Carta. And the theory is all these people can help our portcos reach their full potential. And we do a lot more than financial capital. I like to say, like, we invest capital, but probably the more valuable side, the dollars are almost a commodity these days, but it's almost like the human capital. This is all that we do, is this vertical. We spend more time we're really the only dedicated fund across the globe that's thinking about this stuff. So from our end, this is, it's about all the relationships that we can bring. And our whole goal is simple: to help our portcos reach their full potential.
Yeah. And, I get hit up. You and I talked about this pre-conference. 15 plus emails a week from VCs, and I hear a lot of different pitches on, hey, we can help with operational matters and we want to be helpful. And the reality is how the litmus test for me is, what have you done in legal, right? And you guys, your legal resume is unmatched.
And look, it's like somebody asked me this morning, how do we think about AI in law firms? And maybe a traditional venture capital was, we think they're going to adopt it. We think they're behind. We would say, actually, we think this is like a 6-sided Rubik's Cube. You have the business of law. You have the practice of law. You have law firms that bill by the hour. You have contingency firms. You have
ALSPs.
You have ALSPs. But besides those 4, you also have things along, like you have big firms and you have small firms. And if you take those 6 and mix them up, dramatically different stories as to like adoption of AI, actual usage of AI, who's signing. So it's like, but that type of deep industry expertise, is where we're like come into play. Any one of those 6, completely different story, completely different sales cycle, completely different security requirements. And just the fact that we understand that, and that's all we do all day, every day.
Yeah.
I think it makes a difference.
Yeah, and and it's different events, it's different ICPs,
Yep.
ideal customer profiles, for those that don't know what that means. We kind of had to find our way. So our journey started back in '08. We were a consulting company called AcroWire, and we knew we wanted to play in legal because we had a little bit of a resume there. And we started off. Our first conference was the ABA Tech Show. And we got there as a great event, but it really wasn't where our capabilities lined up. Smaller firms, and they really don't have as much of a need for what we deliver. So we transitioned from a services company to a product company, InfoDash. We do legal intranets and extranets, and we sell primarily to knowledge management and innovation. And this is the event,
But even that, compared to a CleoCon, that's still,
right.
Here you have those stakeholders walking around. Literally, we're standing in the middle of the showroom floor, right, the exhibit hall floor right now, versus a Clio where you have individual practitioners, individual attorneys, but there's different companies and different stages, and who their customer is, that makes a big difference. And understanding all these nuances has been very important, as you know.
We had to learn the hard way. We had to go spend the money, show up, be like, this isn't quite the right fit, experiment. It would have been great. I would have loved to have found you 15 years ago.
But they call that experience.
That's right. Well, you learn those lessons the best.
Yeah.
Like somebody can tell you, hey, you really need to be here instead of here. And if you jump in and do it, you understand why. And I don't know, you can make better decisions. Let's talk a little bit about, is it Legal Tech Labs?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Tell us. That sounds so cool. Like
it is very cool. I think that the idea came up is we wanted a dedicated space. I don't mean physical space, but I mean almost like mind share from our end. And we wanted to be welcoming to like the earliest stages of entrepreneurs. So these are people with concepts, maybe a little bit of capital, maybe a prototype, and they're trying to do something a little bit different. And the labs kind of will rotate thematically what the focus is on. But the overall case for the labs is, hey, here's a place you can come at your earliest stage, similar to an incubator, similar to an accelerator. And in this vertical, we will provide you with as much support as we can. And then also as much like connecting peers that are going through the exact same challenges as you, really connecting you to this like community. So you're not doing these things by yourself. The initial subject area that we're really excited about for labs is almost like, we're calling it Law Firm 2.0.
mm-hmm.
And this is almost like your next generation of a law firm. And what we've seen in the last couple of years is this transition from companies saying, hey, we're going to create some SaaS software specifically for law firms to use, or maybe more around the practice of law than the business of law. And that has like slowly transitioned along with some regulatory changes and the advancement of technology to say, you know what, maybe we can build a micro law firm. And all that we're going to focus on is X, Y, or Z. But we're going to put software behind this. And our software is going to get so many reps of seeing so many specific types of agreements that we can automate a lot of this. So that's the current theme we're working on, is called Law Firm 2.0. And but the overall construct is just saying, if you're getting started, we want to create a home for you. We want to, there's a lot of challenges in this vertical, but there's nothing that a lot of others haven't seen before. So if we can put you in that community, we hope good things can happen.
So, and are these pre-revenue?
Some are.
Okay.
Some aren't. I mean, it's more like we're trying to catch the thematic companies, but in general, all of these Law Firm 2.0 companies, they're pretty early. I mean, really, it's been the advent of AI with the advent of some regulatory changes that are enabling this to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard there's already some players out there in the space, like Crosby is.
You got it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's really exciting. And so, before we get off the labs, should we think about this as like a Y Combinator for legal tech?
Bingo.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
And the way that Y Combinator gives you, a stamp of approval.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking to help put our weight behind these companies to help them in any way that we can, these entrepreneurs.
You know what? And so I saw a really interesting post on LinkedIn recently, and the poster said that law firms don't buy technology, they buy social proof. And it is so true. And how I know it's true, I used to have hair. When I started in legal in 2008, I had hair, and I thought that, you know what, I've got a great team. I'm from Microsoft. Like, that's how all this got started. This was a side gig at Microsoft. I got the pedigree. I've worked in enterprise IT. I can go make a pitch to anybody. And the reality is we had to eat table scraps for years before we really got a chance to play in the AM law. And even once we did play in the AM law space, you know, AM law firms go, hey, what other AM law firms do you do business with?
Yep.
We'll go to New York. They want to know what other AM law firms in New York do you do business with? And somebody's got to give you that first crack. And it takes time. So having you guys in the cap table really helps. You vetted the hell out of us. You looked at our financials, you looked at our management team, you looked at our strategy, you looked at how we had executed.
And we know your customers.
You know our customers.
We
you
know,
talk to them too.
We know your biz dev relationships. We know what other people in the space think about you. A lot of our deals that are a little bit later stage, like, we have all the information that we need almost before we ever interact with the company.
Right. Well, and again, from the tech company side, it's another feather in our cap. You guys have taken a close look at us. You like what we're doing.
Yep.
We're clearly financially sound. Otherwise, you wouldn't write us a check.
Yeah.
Right. So it is. I think that's going to be a big benefit for these, you know, firms that are coming out of this program.
That's the goal. It's like, think back to 2008. Like, there weren't programs like us, and if we
Right.
could have, you know, our only goal is to help entrepreneurs reach their full potential. And you know, we've had lots of entrepreneurs that wish you would have been here way back when. I mean, we caught you in time.
Yeah.
But a lot of these, you know, and we like look around this showroom floor and we see all these amazing brands that have been built. And we think there's a lot of good stuff happening in legal.
So speaking of this floor, we have Startup Alley over there.
Yes.
Did you get a chance to stroll down?
Of course I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything? Well, first of all, do you have Portcos over
I'm
there?
going to say the 5 Portco companies of ours that are there are our top
Okay, cool.
priority. But yes, there's look, it's awesome what ILTA's been doing. Like, just putting more of it, creating that Startup Alley.
Yeah.
And for those that aren't here with us, what's really neat is it's a consistent booth. And I think that's really important for startups. Like, you know, you guys have moved past that stage, but like, even to figure out, we're staring at his booth right now, but even to look at your booth and to think about what that took to get that booth physically here.
Yeah.
And to get that like, these are just things that startups can't do.
Yeah.
You know, they just don't have the resources. And so it's really awesome that ILTA provides that service and giving these startups a shot and getting them in front of this audience.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. And like, we got custom Jordans. I don't know if those are in frame there, but those are Info-Dash Jordans. I bought them for the whole team. It was a couple $1,000, but it's great marketing.
But that's something you wouldn't be able to do in 2008. And there's but there's an area for that. Everybody wants to be around startups, so people are going through and checking them out.
You know, I'll be completely honest. Like, our first ILTA as a product company, it was like our first one in 2008, and we were scrambling for food. I remember we snuck in some vendor's party, and there was a carving station, and Adam and I were like,
"Game on!
We can actually eat some meat here." Like, you know, that is the reality of it when you're starting out. It's like toothpicks and bubble gum, and you do the best you can. So the fact that you guys are supporting that is great. And your timing, let's talk quickly about your timing. Were you lucky with,
Lucky.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Everything's been luck. I mean, look, we started investing in the space before personally, but the fund launched in 20. And we just saw we saw broken workflows everywhere. And we knew the workflows needed to get fixed. The AI stuff that we all magically saw that demo on November 30th, 22.
Yep.
That's lucky. You know what I mean? And by the way, the legal world did not necessarily need that at the time. Like, we still need to fix a lot of this workflow stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of basic blocking and tackling that still needs to be done. But the rest of the world's enthusiasm for this vertical, that is all, you know, and that brings good and bad. You know, that's bringing tons of VC dollars to space. more companies are getting started, but sometimes maybe all these companies shouldn't be started.
Yeah.
Or or maybe you shouldn't be having 15 emails a week coming in, because maybe these are a little bit distracting to entrepreneurs as well.
Yeah. You got to keep your head down. It's so easy to get distracted. Speaking on funding coming into the market, are we frothy right now? Yeah.
I think this is very frothy. I think that I think that look, I mentioned November of 22. If you recall, in early 23, Goldman Sachs came out with a report, and it said 44% of legal work is susceptible to AI.
Yep.
And from that point forward, this has been number one on every venture capital fund's list to invest in this vertical. Everybody wants a legal tech company. And I think that that's what you really saw from 23 to almost today is everybody making a bet.
Yeah.
Now, I think we're about to start coming out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people have made their bets. So I think that the AI world will come back to normal a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think it's healthy. I think that entrepreneurs get excited with the big numbers, but you got to build amazing businesses. And if you get on the venture capital drug for too long, it becomes problematic. So we'd prefer to see companies that are kind of bootstrapping and doing things the hard way because they're just entrepreneurs building amazing businesses day in, day out. And then I also think it creates this environment that it just shouldn't exist. When you read about some of these companies raising 10, 20, 30, 50, 100, 200, $5 million, it creates not the right competitive market. Like the best product should win.
Right.
Not necessarily the ones that are able to fundraise the best. So I think there's some challenges with the market that we're sitting in. Of course, some will do well and some will not.
Yeah.
But,
well, as far as I've been writing about Big Law 2.0 for a while because we're focused on the large law segment. I saw an article, I think you read it too, because Gordon tagged me in it, where they were kind of outlining their thesis, this other venture fund. And in it, they said, if Rip Van Winkle were to wake up, the only thing he'd recognize is a law firm. They've been laggards historically, and they've underinvested in technology relative to peers. And that is now, we are at a stage where that is no longer an option, and firms are going to have to invest, and all these dollars.
One of our partners brought up some Charles Dickens novels, and they described the law firms in different, and it's just like very much similar to how it's been in the last couple of years. COVID was obviously a little bit of a, that changed the physical space as to how people, and that kind of pushed a lot of folks to the cloud and did some of those ones. But no, I think you're about to see some change.
Yeah. All right. Final thought here. So what have you seen in this day and a half, 2 days at ILTACON that stood out from a tech perspective? Has there been, you keep your ear to the ground. There's probably not a lot that surprises you, and you don't have to name a company, but just something that someone's doing that you found interesting.
We're sitting here at an event that has to do with big law, and we're looking at a pretty big Clio booth.
Very
so
interesting.
I think when I walked in, I saw competitors to these companies that are usually in the personal injury side. I think you're seeing some sort of blend where I gave you that 6-sided Rubik's Cube, but you're watching the corners kind of blend into each other, where people are trying to go into a couple of these different markets at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be really interesting. What's something you saw?
That is a really good question. So I haven't spent a lot of time on the exhibit floor, but I'm going to piggyback on what you just mentioned with Clio. So they've been making some really interesting moves. They bought ShareDo, they bought VLEX.
Yep.
And they really seem like they're trying to move up market. VLEX is a big law play. So to your point, I think as Law 2.0, I'll keep the big out of it. As Law 2.0 unfolds, I think that you're going to see a 5-employee AmLaw firm, right? With AmLaw size revenues, with a very limited headcount. That's not going to be today or tomorrow, but that is absolutely going to happen. And I think we're starting to see signs of kind of the foundation start to get laid for that.
Could not agree anymore. It's just a question of when. It's not an if.
Yes. Well, I really appreciate you joining me. It's always a pleasure,
It-
sir.
it is a pleasure having you in the portfolio. It's a pleasure getting to work with you, and thank you for all the work you do at your company, but also the entire space.
Yes, I appreciate that. All right, we'll have you on the podcast again soon.
Let's do it.
All right, appreciate it.
Thanks, Ed.
Fun stuff, man. Al Hounsel, how are you today?
Really good, Ted. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. You are a fellow innovator of the year, emeritus, I guess now. at this point.
Emeritus, yes, for sure.
Well, for the folks that don't know you out there, why don't you just give a quick rundown who you are, what you do, and where you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Al Hounsel, I'm the National Director of AI Innovation and Knowledge at Gowling WLG. We're a global firm, and I'm based in our Toronto office. And I basically lead the library, knowledge management, innovation teams, and our solutions team to help solve workflow problems, to deliver reusable knowledge products, and obviously the legal technology component as well.
So, of all of that really interesting sounding work, like what's like one of the biggest challenges that you're up against right now?
Yeah, I think for me, and this is true of my whole career, but the biggest challenge is really helping to build bridges into what I see as being the future for the practice. And so sometimes it's easy for me to kind of live in that future and think about, okay, what does law look like in 5 years? And, you know, the technology right now, it's not perfect. It makes mistakes. It's not well integrated into a lot of things. But as a technical person, I can see the building blocks are there. And I know like this is just a matter of time before all of this is pieced together and things are so much better. And then you've got to come back to reality because you're dealing with the technology as it exists now, and you're dealing with the practice as it exists now, some of whom are super keen and are on the cutting edge of AI and other innovations, some of whom require a little more hand-holding and need use cases to be spoon-fed and really helped along in that process. And so living in that tension and that balance, that's the biggest challenge and also the biggest opportunity.
Yeah, so I have a friend who's a senior partner at a big law firm, over 1,000 attorneys. He happens to live in St. Louis, and he's a client. We go to breakfast once a quarter and chit chat. He's head of the Innovation Council, so very innovative thinker. And he has kind of told me that I'm over indexing on the future now. And, you know, that is a balance like you just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're right. I can't help but look 3-4 years out. And I think 3-4 years is massive change between here and there. But the reality is we still are where we are, not just in the practice of law, but in the business of law too.
Mm-hmm.
So I constantly have to reel myself in. I want to be forward looking and like get there and talk about it. But the reality is we still have to deal with the constraints that we're living with today.
You have to be comfortable in that tension because on one side, the legal industry has been way too tactical. Yes. They've just, we've had an incremental innovation. And they think about what are we doing now? How do we bring that in? And there's that slow change, which makes sense. If you're bringing in an incremental innovation, you bring it in an incremental way. But with generative AI, we're now looking at a disruptive innovation. And we're using those same innovation models, trying to bring in a disruptive innovation in an incremental way, when really we need to be looking at some more fundamental aspects of the entire business of law. So there's the pitfalls on that side, being too tactical. But then as you mentioned as well, over-indexing on the future, if we're too far that way, I call it sort of like a Noah's Ark situation where you're building out this thing, hoping for something to come in the future. But you can't do that in the legal industry. Because if you're building too long into something that's in the future, you're going to be fired before you're able to build that arc or whatever it is, right? And so you've got to build those bridges. You have to find value now with the new technology, but then bring it into your workflows in a way that builds out capacities within the organization so the organization is ready for the future that is fast approaching. So it's exciting, but it is not easy.
Yeah. And you know what? I have a tendency to run to the future faster than maybe people around me are ready to run.
Yeah.
I did it in legal. So we started in 2008 as a company called AcroWire, and we got engaged with ILTA probably 15 years ago now. started doing road shows maybe 2013 and started talking about the cloud. And I was like, this makes perfect sense. You know, other industries are moving there. I was 10 years too early. Like Big Law was not ready to have the cloud conversation. And the reality is there are still big AM law firms today that are just really starting the planning around moving to the cloud. So getting too far ahead of the pack doesn't serve you well. I got to reel myself back in. I imagine you have to do the same thing.
Yeah, the same thing, because I'm dealing with lawyers every single day, and they're wonderful, creative, innovative people. But they are rooted in the present reality of what value are we right now delivering to our clients. And that's perfectly reasonable and perfectly fine. And so we've got to take these things that I can see that this is what the technology is going to be in the future. And I can see how this is going to disrupt our business model. But I can't build around that just yet. I've got to bring in the current capabilities in the current workflows and just help people incrementally.
Yeah, you know, and it's so much more than a tech conversation. Culture is a huge component. And, you know, historically, I know people don't like to hear this, but the reality is law firms have underinvested in technology relative to their peers. So to put that in perspective, law firms, big law firms have historically invested 1 to 3% of revenue in tech. Financial services, low to mid-teens. Right. So massively different, 10x higher investment in many other industries. And now law firms are in a place where there hasn't been real attention to detail around data hygiene. We're way behind on our cloud migration. We're understaffed, really, with the types of resources that we need to get it to the next level. And now we have a fire underneath us because the world is changing so quickly. And but that cultural piece is huge.
It is. And I think just to reframe that a little bit, when we think about what are the actual capabilities of the technology, it helps provide a lens to that whole story, right? Like you look at the financial industry, computers for quite a long time have been better at math than people were. Right. So it makes sense that accounting and financial services were disrupted first. You sort of follow that along and look at the consulting industry and big data in the 2010s and following. Super relevant to making strategic decisions for your organization. And we saw consulting disrupted after through this big data wave. Now we're in the age of LLMs, and machines can now parse language and extract from language and reformulate language in ways that is getting better and better. It's not at the level of what a senior lawyer can do yet, but this disruption we've seen in other industries, it's just now it's cutting to the core of what we do as wordsmiths. And so the legal industry, in some ways, has to grapple with something it hasn't grappled with before, but in other ways can kind of see a blueprint from these other industries in terms of how we want to navigate this.
Yeah. And, you know, there is a ton of pent-up demand on the buy side for innovation. Like, you know, I did a little, I guess you could call it a study, a survey, whatever. I looked at the ILTA 2014 roster, and there were 16 people who had the word innovation in their title. Today, there's like over 400. So when I did this, it was in late 2024. So it had been exactly 10 years. And in that decade, there was an 1,800% increase in innovation titles. Now, so you might sit back and go, okay, does that mean that we've been more innovative, or we had 18?
That is exactly what I'm asking. Is there a correlation between actual innovation and titles?
Yes. And I would say the answer has historically been no. And there's some data points that support that. The Blickstein Group does a LDO, Law Department Operations Survey every year. And last December, they asked GCs, a bunch of them, like 80, is your law firm innovative? Almost 2/3, 63%, either disagreed or strongly disagreed. So you have 1,800% growth in innovation investment, and 2/3 of your customers don't think you're innovative. Where's the disconnect? You know, there's a disconnect somewhere. I don't know. What are your thoughts on where that exists?
Yeah, I think it really is this incremental innovation trap. It is innovation, to incrementally improve workflows. That is a type of innovation. But oftentimes when we throw around the word, we're thinking about what most scholars call disruptive or breakthrough innovation, right? When we're thinking about the Teslas and the Apples and these other big organizations in the world that have completely redefined categories. And so then we take the same word and bring it into the law firm context and, oh, we've shaved 5 minutes off of this workflow. This is our innovation. And it seems like this word has no meaning in the legal context. I think having a framework for the way in which you want to approach innovation from a portfolio perspective, where law firms understand, yeah, a good portion of what we do should actually focus on incremental innovation, because not only is it something that is a bit lower risk from the change management and adoption side, it's lower risk in terms of ROI. It's much more likely to produce a positive return on investment. The breakthrough stuff, you'll fail miserably at some of it, and then some of it you'll hit out of the park. And law firms need to do what other organizations have done for many years as they think about an innovation portfolio and put some chips in some of the breakthrough ideas that'll redefine things in a measured and thoughtful way, in addition to the incremental innovations.
So, all right, the chips analogy, I've got a thought on that.
Yeah.
So historically, law firms don't do R&D, right? They're a cash basis accounting partnership, and that model optimizes profit at the end of the year, and there's very little, like 1% in legal goes to R&D. So we're going to have more. I don't think that you're going to get by. You know, we're a software vendor. I'd love to say, oh, just buy off the shelf products and you know, work your way to Big Law 2.0. I don't think that's reality, because how are firms going to differentiate themselves? If I can buy the same tool you can, that's non-differentiating by definition. So where I think firms do have an opportunity to differentiate themselves is all of their data, all of their work product, all their successful deals, all of that internal institutional knowledge. And to tap into that, you can't just buy something off the shelf. You're probably going to have to make some investments internally. So how does your firm, or how do you think about like that R&D piece that's historically not really been a focus?
Yeah, so I have a couple thoughts on this. The first is from a build versus buy perspective. I come from a technical background, built and sold a couple of small companies, developer since high school, and I love building stuff. And I've tried building stuff in the law firm context as well. And in some cases, it works really well. It really comes down to that business model, though, in terms of how much do we want to invest, not just from a financial standpoint, but how much do we want to invest in terms of the time that it takes to investigate and research and develop these kinds of things, many of which don't work out. There just hasn't been that change management that's happened at the management level in law firms to develop the appetite for things that don't pan out. And that is a crucial element of research and development. So that's one aspect. I agree with you that it needs to happen more. I wonder whether it will happen more on a partnership basis with other organizations. And I say that because we sometimes talk about the legal industry, but are referring specifically to law firms when we're using that term. The legal industry is so much more broad. So R&D is happening on an industry level when you look at the legal tech companies and the ALSPs that are structured differently from an investment standpoint. And I think forging some of those partnerships where a firm can leverage what is unique to them while leveraging the strength of the external organization, I think that's where the most success lies. And, you know, historically, it seems like that's where the most successful projects have been found.
We're talking about a project right now.
We are.
With you. You guys are an existing intranet customer.
Yeah.
And honestly, not no, all jokes aside, you have one of the most beautiful intranets that we've seen. I've been doing this for 17 years. You did an amazing job with the UX around that. So we're proud to be a part of that project. And we got another interesting project that we're talking about as well. And when I say R&D, what I'm not suggesting is that we go try and rebuild the capabilities of Harvey. But what I think we're going to have to do is get away from this mindset of bring your data to AI, and you have to start thinking more about how you bring AI to your data.
Yeah.
Right. So, Azure AI Search, Azure OpenAI, you've got all of your client work product in the DMS. That's institutional knowledge that you can then harvest. With the current set of off-the-shelf tools, they can't tap into. It's really hard to do wholesale AI operations. Right. It's kind of more. It's ad hoc. It's kind of in workflow type stuff. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. How do you think about that? Bringing AI to your data. Do you see that as a future path?
I think that there's a hybrid approach that we're starting to see from the vendors, where you're bringing technology to your data, but you're customizing the workflows through which it flows as part of that integration. And so the easier the vendors make it for us to bring those customizations so that the AI actually understands our tagging methodology and where we're storing what kinds of data and what types of documents are relevant to what types of workflows. I think partially that's going to help a lot. But this is one of those future and now problems as well.
Yeah.
Because the future state, these AI tools will scour everything you have, and there's not a lot of manual work that's going to be required in order for it to develop incredible insights from our data. The building blocks exist now for that to happen, and we're starting to see some integrations from different vendors. And it's really about, as you're thinking about the investment from the law firm perspective, there are things that we could do now that would bring competitive advantage in the short term. But by the time we do it, are we already in that future world where all of that investment is basically not necessary? We've seen this in other industries. When GPT first came out, you look at, I'm not going to name the companies, but certain financial companies that invested in custom models that was going to bring differentiation for them, millions and millions of dollars. GPT-4 comes out and it blows out of the water what these organizations were able to create on their own, right? So that's the question from the law firm perspective, especially when you're helping guide an organization led by risk-averse lawyers, where success has to be an element of the story. You don't want to invest too heavily in something that the future state of technology is going to solve for you.
Yeah, and two, when I say bring AI to your data, I don't mean retraining, redoing the work of ChatGPT. Yeah. Maybe it's reinforcement learning.
Yeah.
With data. Speaking of which, law firm data is all over the place. There hasn't been a huge focus, industry wide, and I mean in the law firm world, on data hygiene. Right. And now we're in a place where data hygiene really matters.
Yeah.
And you'll look into a DMS and see, stock purchase agreement final, then the final, then the final. And it's really hard. Sometimes the attorneys themselves who work those matters can't piece together. And I know this because this just happened to us. We had a document sent out that it was a buyout, and there was the personal wire information in the last page of the document.
Yeah.
And again, it was just a naming convention, and nobody's privacy was breached as a result. But they quickly fixed it. But it was man, it's really hard to know, hey, where's the final?
Yeah.
So how much is data hygiene? How much cleanup do you think we're going to have to do before we can really take it to the next level?
I feel like my answer is the same to all these questions, because it really is about that tension.
Yeah.
If we think about the messed up document management systems and the lack of hygiene there now, if a person can sit down and look at, this is the document that is the final document, by looking at the context of the other documents there, I feel like we're coming to a future state where an AI system can do that as well. And so now we've got this tension. In 3 years, will I have an AI system that can scour through my document management system and do that exact cleanup and tagging that will take a heavy amount of investment from a people perspective to do right now? And that is the balance, and that's the tension that we have to think about when we're investing into anything, when you're in such a rapidly changing technological landscape.
It's good stuff. All right, we're almost out of time, but just one last question for you. Are there any projects or kind of initiatives that you've been working on that you feel could inspire others, or that there were some key learnings and takeaways that you'd be willing to share?
Sure. So from the months of April through to July at my firm, we were basically in the heat of AI mania. We tried everything. We had different structured pilots, different categories of tools. Over 300 people were part of these pilots. We asked for a lot of their time to test use cases in multiple tools and catalog exactly how much time was saved, how much quality was improved, did it reduce risk in any way, did it drive any other client-facing factors. So we had a very high ask of our practitioners. And Ted, I have not seen anything like this. Like the level of excitement and participation we've had, which partially is just out of luck. Like the tools are just a lot better now than they were 6 months ago. But partially is just the enthusiasm of the practice of the firm that I've joined. I joined Gowling in November, and it's been really inspiring to me to see just that innovative mindset, that desire to get involved. We collected so much structured data on all these different tools, but more importantly, use cases. How can we drive more value to clients? And I think being data driven around these decisions is really important. Like I can't tell you how many things were so much easier when you've got all this data, when you're making purchasing decisions, when you're making decisions around what do we want to roll out for clients, how do we want to approach clients about use cases that are relevant to them. The data tells a story there, and that's been super inspiring to me, and hopefully can be to other people.
That's awesome. All right, well, we will leave it there. Al, thank you so much for taking the time. I know how busy and crazy and hectic and how full your dance card is at ILTA, so I really appreciate you taking a few minutes with us here.
Thanks for having me, Ted.
All right, appreciate it. Kate Kane, how are you today?
I'm well, Ted. How are you?
I'm doing great. So I feel like a lot of people know you, but for the ones that don't, why don't you tell us who you are, what you do, and where you do it?
Sure. So my name's Kate Kane. I am the Chief Knowledge and Innovation Officer at Shepherd Mullen, based in our Chicago office, but have bag will travel. So I spend a lot of my time in a lot of our different offices. My team includes our research and intelligence team, our e-discovery team, and we are now building out our practice innovation team. So
And you are fairly new at the firm?
just over a year. It was a year in April, so not quite. So I'm technically not allowed to play the new card anymore,
Okay.
but every day discovering something new and interesting.
Yeah, and you guys have had I think you have a new CIO.
We have a new CIO, David Lampert, joined us in May.
Awesome.
He's literally drinking from the fire hose and all of those similar kind of cliches, but it's great. I'm really looking forward to working closely with him and his leadership team to help bring the firm forward.
Yeah. You and I did this last year.
Yep.
We not quite as much production.
Yeah, we were in a hall.
We were in a hallway,
yeah.
but we had good equipment. The video turned out great. The sound turned out great. So we a year ago, I remember us kind of talking about how you see some firms making moves and starting to assemble, like as a leading indicator for me as a vendor, like firms that are starting to really push, who might be good candidates for us to talk to. I look at their org chart, like, bringing you in, bringing Dave Lampert in. We've seen movement. We've seen, Meredith bring several people from her old world into, you're seeing firms like Cleary buy a startup. You're starting to kind of see moves. Is Shepherd Mullen really starting to kind of build the framework for getting to the next level?
Yeah, I think we're well on our way there, right? So Rob Brown is our COO. He joined the firm a couple years ago and has really been investing in C-level leadership. So bringing me on, we elevated our CFO, brought in Christy Caceres as our CMO. So really investing in that strategic leadership to work with the practices. The firm has grown astronomically over the years. They are really thoughtful and deliberate about how they bring in laterals. We have like a 95+% retention rate for laterals, which is pretty unheard of at our level. But really, really thoughtful growth on the practice side. And it's time for our business services teams to catch up. There's a lot of really great people doing a lot of really great things in pockets, but I think at the C level, our chiefs team functions like a team and are really focused on, bringing out the best in our own teams, but making sure we're, working collaboratively to help deliver services to the firm. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, I know. It's exciting to watch. So you've got a lot of objectives, a new role, new firm, new peers. Like what? You might have a hard time narrowing it down to just one. What is like the biggest challenge that you're working on right now?
Sure. I think with us, I think the biggest challenge there's probably two things. One on the people side, and then one just on the sort of brass tacks technical side. On the people side, everybody understands, the litigators understand what e-discovery is. And we've got my e-discovery team is growing and really starting to make a difference there. People understand what research is, at least at a base level, right? So they understand what the research team. Introducing an innovation team is a little different, especially when I'm introducing the roles that I've introduced are knowledge and innovation attorneys. These are all former practicing lawyers who've deliberately chosen to cross over, but really with a focus on technology and being able to, the way we sort of pitch it is bridging the gap between delivering the software and transforming the way people work. So, our IT team, they've done a lot of over the years, purchasing software, handing the software out, and then the lawyers go, oh, okay. And then they do what they've done before. And we've got a lot of things sitting on the shelf that people lose track of or aren't aware of, et cetera. And so we're really positioning our K&I attorneys with key practices to be the voice of the lawyer when we're looking at technology, to be the voice of the practice when we're figuring out how to configure it, how to deploy it, how to talk about it, but also being the voice of the technology, listening in on, attending practice group meetings, attending associate meetings. And I mean, the best way to find out like where the pain points are is not to go to the practice meeting or the group meeting, but it's to dial into the associate meeting 15 minutes before to just listen to what they're all kind of kvetching about. And then being able to come back to the next one. Hey, you guys were complaining about that process or that drafting issue or, XYZ last time. Did you know we've got this tool and it does this? And let me show you how it can address such and such. It's that last mile between delivering the software and transforming what they do, but in a way that you're like meeting the lawyers where they are, which I think is a pretty key. That's something I've learned the hard way over the years. Being able to drive adoption, drive engagement, and really ultimately deliver value to the clients, which is the entire point of the exercise.
Are all of your KM&I attorneys aligned to a practice, or do you have generalists as well?
We have two. I have one that's aligned to our litigation practices, so they all have kind of a portfolio. Everybody's got a major and a minor. So Marion focuses on our litigation groups, and then is kind of our lead for document automation and related solutions there. Debbie Ting, who just joined us, is focused on our corporate practice right now, but ultimately her portfolio will extend to our transactional practices. And she's getting ready to run a couple of pretty big AI-driven pilots, which we're really excited about. Alex Perfett is aligned with our healthcare industry team, but she's my lead for our foundation implementation, which is right inches away from that big launch. And then we've got Victor Chavez, who's actually been with the firm for quite a while. He has a research background and a technology background, and he's been the firm's lead AI guy for quite a while. And so he's been our point person for several different AI initiatives, and really excited for him. He's about to become a dad, so he'll be going out on leave for a little bit. But when he comes back, we'll get him lined up with a couple of our practices as well.
Well, you brought AI up. I didn't. I just want to go on the record. And
fair point.
But since you did, let's talk about it.
Sure.
So how are you seeing emerging AI tech in the practice without naming tools, but categories, and where you're seeing, reality and differentiate itself from actually making a difference? Like, how are you seeing things?
Yeah, it is interesting how much has changed and yet how much hasn't changed since early 23, right? I think that we're going to see a convergence of tools right now. Well, ultimately, I think long run, AI is just another feature of just about everything.
Right.
It become, it's not a thing. It's not an it in the singular. It's a feature of a lot of different things leveraged in different ways. We're seeing it across all of the research platforms, big, small, and otherwise. It's a different way to deal with language. It's a different way to present results. It's a different way to shorten that hunting and gathering exercise so that the lawyers have more time to do the analysis and the strategy piece. We're really pushing hard on changing the narrative around it. It's not about reducing hours. And I mean, that's part of it, but really putting an emphasis on the value, shifting the work to the higher value, higher impact work that we want to deliver to our clients. I think on the tech side, we're looking at point solutions to deal with very specific use cases, specific pain points. I think those will eventually converge. I think the way we've been talking about it with our lawyers is like, look, we're going to date for a couple of years. And if the product continues to evolve and continues to meet our needs, then we date for a couple more years. But like things change too fast. Like I think gone are the days of the lifetime commitments. And so when we look at things, one of the things I'm looking at is how portable is it? Probably not what you want to hear on your side of the table, but how portable is it so that if it comes to a point where, and I've worked with products that, just die on the vine and it's not great for anybody. So being able to have the flexibility to figure out what's next is, I think, an important part of the equation. I think right now, I think 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we're going to see things kind of converge to a certain extent. So it'll be interesting to see which directions, which products go.
Yeah. And as far as our category, so for those that don't know, InfoDash is an intranet, extranet platform. And the use cases around that are very, very mature. right? Like you don't do, like we have minimum 3-year deals. You wouldn't do a 1-year deal on an intranet. It's going to be
You
a
can't
year.
get it stood up in that time.
Exactly. It takes time. And we deploy in the client's environment. So there's a lot of plumbing and wiring we have to do.
Mhm.
And that's going to be true on the extranet side as well, which we're taking a little bit of a different angle. You know, the historical incumbent in that space is very ring fenced and isolated. It's hard to get data in and out. We took a different approach where we deploy in the tenant. You can have real-time integrations, opens up all new sorts of doors. But what we're struggling with is which doors do we actually walk through? Like, so when we deploy our product, we have something called Integration Hub, taps into all the back office systems, and then Azure AI Search and Azure OpenAI can now talk to your DMS, any SQL data where you may have regulatory updates. There's all these Lego blocks and capabilities that Microsoft has. So as a vendor, we got to decide, okay, are we going to get sucked down delivering services instead of being a product company? So that is the challenge for us, is like, we want to enable law firms to build upon their data and their capabilities, but we don't want to turn into a consulting company again. We did that.
Right.
It's no fun.
It's a different kind of fun.
It's well, I used to have hair when I started it. And now I don't. I can't lose any more though. But yeah, so that's the challenge on the vendor side. It's like, in your world, I totally see it. How are you managing like fatigue around POCs, around even just AI in general? How are you managing that?
You know, it's been interesting because I've had, we've been working really closely with a group of our corporate partners who've been terrific. And, they take the call, they watch the demo, the sales guy says, hey, we'll give you a free pilot. And they're like, great. It's like, oh my goodness. And so really trying to convey that sense of urgency, keep things moving, but also do it in a way where there's a hope of success.
Yeah.
And especially when you're talking about, if you're talking about a widget where you push the button, it produces the result you want or it doesn't, it's an easy decision. But when you're talking about tools that are more data platforms, or when you're talking about tools that are more workflow, transaction management or case management, you gotta kick those around in real life for a while to really understand it. And so I think the way we're now approaching these is, rather than a pilot, like being really clear about what we want to accomplish. So if we're in a head-to-head competition between two platforms, the first thing is we need a buy decision. So how do we get enough people doing enough things so we can make a confident buy decision? It's not going to be perfect, but how do we get to that buy decision? And then, so that's more of that proof of concept, sort of initial sort of beauty contest. And then the pilot is more about testing. How do we talk about it? How do we engage? Pilot's a first wave of a rollout. And we've talked about the fact that for some of these platforms, we'll get through the pilot, that initial first wave, but it's going to take us a year to really figure out where the sweet spot is in terms of how these products align with the way our lawyers want to work. Yeah. And it's going to take us a bit of trial and error with the messaging and the training. And I think training is also a key piece of this. I think gone are the days of the big ta-da rollout where you funnel everyone into a classroom and make them push buttons and send them back to their desks. It's much more raise awareness and then strike where there's opportunity. You raise awareness so that people at least remember there's a thing that does that thing. And then when someone's complaining about, oh gosh, I wish I could do X, or gee, there's got to be an easier way to do it. Yes, there is. And let me show you in real time on your real work. And that's how it sticks. People have got to feel it. They've got to know that this new thing they're investing a little bit of time in trying to figure out is going to produce them a result that is as good as, if not better than, the thing that they knew how to do it before. It may take longer. It may be a complete pain in the tuchus, but they know what result they're going to get. And lawyers need that certainty. They can't risk producing less than great results for their clients. And that's the mindset I think our teams have to keep in mind.
And how do you manage? So what I heard you say there is there's a ton of change management involved in success. There's also capacity management.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think about capacity management with respect to an audience that has such a high opportunity cost on their time?
Yeah, being really strategic and almost surgical about when we ask them to do things. And that's part of also the business case for building out my team. The first time lawyers put hands on something, it needs to be fully vetted. We need to know how they're going to use it, what they're going to use it for, know what things they need to know. We need to know what the risks are.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what my team's role is going to be in this process. As those former practicing lawyers, they've got that background, again, to be the voice of the lawyer in the project. It doesn't make sense to include a herd of associates in every project check-in meeting,
Right.
whatever the project is, like being really strategic about when we draw them in, how we're using their time. For these proof of concept that I mentioned, we've got a small group of 5 or 6 partners. They've got an associate buddy. That's how we're going to get to our buy decision. And then there's 5 or 6 more that are included in the group because they're influential, important people that politically they need to be part of that group, but like that core group of 5 or 6 plus the associates. And it's like, okay, here's what's going to be involved. You're going to get the software here. We're going to have stand-ups. And they're like, oh, we should check in every 2 or 3 weeks. No, we're going to check in every 2 or 3 days. It's 20 minutes, quick conversation, like getting them to talk about what they've been doing as close to in the moment as possible. We're gonna have a Teams, and this is not new to a lot of my friends and other firms that have been doing this for a while, but this is new territory for us.
Yeah.
And helping the lawyers understand like that real time bits of feedback, or I tried this and didn't see what I meant, or hey, has anybody done this? Like that kind of interaction, as opposed to we're going to do a pilot for 60 days and then we will send you a survey form and ask you for your feedback, and you don't get actionable information in that way. So we're hoping to be able to accelerate the timeline by doing that, but also getting better information as we're doing it.
And then how are you, speaking of capacity management, how are you guys going about deciding who makes the cut for a POC? Do you have I've heard of prioritization committees being stood up where, how are you guys thinking about that problem?
I think that's a 2026 opportunity for us.
Okay.
Where we are right now is there are some specific pain points that we're wanting to tackle first, and almost from my perspective, almost treating it as a proof of concept just for the whole concept of my team, so that they can see how it can work, and how it can look if we structure it and go about it in a way that is different from what they've done in the past. And as David gets his sea legs about him with his team and his leadership team, and they tackle some of the infrastructure things that they're wrestling with, I think then we get to a point where we're able to provide greater transparency to the firm and to firm leadership about what are the priorities, what are the firm's goals, and how do we align what we're doing to make sure we're supporting those goals. We're in the process of building out the next 5-year strategic plan for the firm, and being able to say, all right, if these are the areas that we want to focus on as a firm for growth and the goals and the targets that leadership has set, here's how we plug in those different, how we define the strategy for innovation, how we define the strategy for technology, for talent management, and so on, that support those firm level goals. And David and I have been talking to our teams and just about anybody that'll listen, about being able to say, great, here are the things we're working on right now. What an interesting idea. Let's put that on the list. If a new idea comes in that is better than or more important than the things we've got, then it's an open conversation about making a change rather than an accidental detour and everyone's surprised about how we got there. So being intentional about it, I think, is the key with all of that.
How much time have you had to spend on the exhibit floor so far this year?
All in, maybe 20 minutes.
Okay. So have you seen
Just starting.
Have you seen anything interesting that's really caught your attention, like category or?
I think one thing, data is like my heart of hearts, right? Yeah. And I think that data, the one thing that most organizations missed is context. Yeah. And so watching how different platforms, different tools, from document management to research and everything in between, are looking at this mountains of unstructured data, our documents that law firms have tons and tons of, and saying, oh, we can extract all of these things, and boom, you've got your X and your Y and your Z. But I've seen some platforms provide the context really well. Some assume that what they're looking at is good, and therefore you can draw inferences from it. It's like, sometimes, document management systems are more like a needle in a haystack of needles, and it's hard. You can't make some of the inferences that you want to make just out of the gates. And so I think what I'm looking for are platforms, our vendors, our business partners that understand that nuance and the importance of that context and how to achieve that balance.
So, all right, we're almost out of time, but I gotta back up a little bit. You said 5-year plan.
Mm-hmm.
That blows my mind because the world is changing so fast. How on earth are you projecting out where you want to be, where the world will be? Like, I'm thinking about a 5-month plan. Like, how do you extrapolate that far out into the future?
It's challenging, but I think the key to it is it's a strategic plan. It's not a task list. It's not a to-do list. It's not a turn the button to the left or make this button green or roll out this software. It's strategically, where do we want to be as an organization? You know, where are the organization's strengths? What practices do we want to invest in? What industries do we want to over invest in? How do we want to position the firm in the marketplace? And let those strategic big picture goals then influence and drive what we're doing. You know, translating that on the technology and innovation side, how do we address our core? You know, the firm's grown really fast, and we've got some pretty fundamental infrastructure things that need to catch up. We're in good shape. Everything works, but it could be better.
Yeah.
And looking at our data, we've got lots of data in different places to do the really cool, really innovative, really forward-thinking things that AI will allow us to do now and 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. Our data's got to be in great shape. So we've got some work to do there. So I think but the challenge working with lawyers, we have brilliant lawyers on our executive committee and our firm leadership. They're incredibly thoughtful, but lawyers by nature solve problems, whether it's you're a litigator or a deal person or a regulatory lawyer. Like, that's the nature of the role. You solve problems, and it's difficult to be so focused on solving problems and then look up and try and look, you know, sort of, it's like looking at those 3D posters where you got to unfocus your eyes. Like, that's a different way of looking at the world. And so really trying to keep everybody focused, like, what's the long game? How do we provide direction and really wide guardrails that allow for the flexibility to adjust as the world changes? Because when our current plan was written in 2020, nobody saw what happened in 2023, right?
How could you?
So it was like, oh, all right. So how do we make sure that those strategic goals are at a level where we can then build on that? And that provides us as a Chiefs team, it provides each of our teams with guidance on where the firm wants to go.
Yeah. I mean, even the people in the AI labs couldn't have predicted and didn't predict the speed at which all this tech is unfolding. It's absolutely breathtaking. And I know you like me are an enthusiast and like to play around with these new tools when they come out. And with every new release, I'll say ChatGPT 5. I'll give it a meh. But
on
overall,
a scale of 1 to wow, just a meh.
Yeah, it's just a meh. It's a router model, and I don't like not having the ability to select O3 and do reasoning. You can do at the bottom of your prompt, think deeply and kind of hack it a little bit, but aside from that, with every new release, it's just been mind blowing. So
yeah, I mean, I remember in '99 when I joined a firm that will remain nameless, they had just issued direct dial phone numbers to all the lawyers.
Oh, wow.
For the first time. And there were partners freaking out that was going to be the end of the legal profession as we knew it. Like, that was it. Lawyers answering their phones would be a disaster. All of the things, a lot of pearl clutching and such. And now you say that, and I say that to people who are earlier in their careers, and then like, wait, what? People didn't have 4 phones? I don't understand. The world changes. It's changing a little faster, but not, right? I mean, the technology's shifting a little bit. It's like all of a sudden we unlocked the ability to deal with unstructured data the way we've been dealing with structured data for years.
Exactly.
So it just opened another door in the hallway.
Yep.
And so now we got to figure out, all right, how do we fold this stuff in a way that's responsible and reasonable and thoughtful and don't lose our minds while we're doing it.
Well, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day, and you are the best color coordinated guest.
I try.
I think on the whole exhibit
White
floor.
jeans was a risk today, but yeah.
Definitely in this booth all day. You nailed it. So good job.
All right. Thanks, Ted.
All
Always
right.
a pleasure.
Yep.
Check. I just need to breathe in for a bit. Catch my.
It reminded me to sit up.
Sit up, don't slouch. So, welcome to the inaugural ILTACON Live. My name's Ben Whitewick, and I've got Emily Colbert and Mike Dane from Thomson Reuters. Welcome. Hi.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Ben.
Good to see you.
Glad to be here.
It's good. It's good, isn't it? And I'm slightly nervous, everyone, but it's fine. It's fine. I get that.
Are you doing great?
Thanks. It's only just started, and I haven't sworn it. So you guys, Thomson Reuters, I used to be at Thomson Reuters, so we're quite naturally partnered. It's perfect. Tell me what you guys are talking about at the moment. What's going on? What's new? What's fun? I don't know, Mike?
Yeah, so we've got a big new release of Co-Counsel Legal, and as part of that, we're launching a new version of Westlaw called Westlaw Advantage. Westlaw Advantage has a number of big new capabilities, but the biggest one is something we call deep research. Many of our customers have used deep research with ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok or Claude or Perplexity. But the big difference between using deep research at one of those services and using it with Westlaw is that we have brought this iterative agentic process to legal research where our agents are instructed in the use of Westlaw's proprietary tool set, tools like the key number system, KeyCite, statutes annotations, precision research markup, etc. So our agents are using those tools, but they're not just using them, they're also instructed in the use of them by the attorneys on the Westlaw team and the practical law team so that they can use these tools like an expert researcher would. So now, instead of sort of like the version 1 kind of simplistic RAG approach to research, now our agents are formulating plans, they're working together, and they're iteratively moving through the research so that they can use these tools, figure out where to go next, change the plan if necessary, and then provide a much more comprehensive, nuanced report that not only sort of shows the answer to the legal question, but shows the perspective of each side so that the lawyer can really understand the nuance.
Wow. That sounds, I mean, so I, very personally, you know, we're all across AI everywhere because it's the latest fun thing.
It's exploding everywhere.
Exactly. And it's really powerful and really amazing. And I think there is this opportunity to embed sort of this transformative technology into all of our working lives in lots of different ways. But I think I've always looked at what you guys do is you guys have got the understanding of the market in terms of the knowledge and the research and the information, and you're just amplifying the power of that through these kinds of tools.
We do have great understanding of the market, but we never fully trust that understanding. We're always going out and talking with customers about the latest technology, about the way that we're planning to apply it, and getting their feedback about how we can do it even better. So, we literally talked with hundreds of lawyers about deep research and how to implement it, how it should look, how it should work. So we're really excited to bring it to market.
No,
it goes live for our customers tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Oh, wow. Cool. Great timing. Yeah. Everyone loves a launch during ILTA. So I've got a question for you. So I read a lot about sort of the market and like true agentic in its like autonomous form.
Mm-hmm.
So you're creating the building blocks of these tools, these little mini agents, and you're allowing them to work together collaboratively to solve the problem.
Yes.
How autonomous are they, or is it a layer of knowledge and orchestration and the autonomy of those things, or is it a combination at the moment?
It is a combination. So it's not like they're fully autonomous where we say, do whatever you want, however you feel like, so we're giving them a lot of instruction in terms of how to approach legal research problems, but they are autonomous. They can make decisions based on new information that they find in the research process. So there is autonomy built into the process.
No, that's cool. I mean, I think that's, everything's moving at such a pace and everything's sort of running, and everyone's trying to keep up just with their understanding, let alone building it into products and services, particularly organizations like yours, where you've got that deep research, you've got the products sort of baseline, but actually having been in your, worked inside a TR and working in where I now sort of work, is being able to pivot quickly, lead and drive the industry forward it's a massive challenge. How do you achieve it? You know, because it's a big drive forward.
We all have to move faster. I mean,
Yeah.
AI is just exploding, and there's new changes every week, every day. You know, we're constantly seeing new technologies, new techniques where we think, oh, that would be really good to look into. That could be really helpful for our customers. And so we're doing our best to keep up with it, to experiment with it, and then bring the latest, you know, to our customers. But it's a challenge. You know.
Yeah, it's interesting with this one because we started probably with one of the hardest things to do agentically, right? With research itself.
Yeah.
You can, I mean, to actually do it and get good results and trusted results and build the proprietary tools to go with Westlaw. It's not the easiest place to start, but as Thomson Reuters, it made sense for us to start where that's our strength, that's our history, and we have all of those unique capabilities in Westlaw. And then what I get super excited about is we've already built it into CoCounsel Assistant.
Yeah.
So, you know, we do deep research now from within CoCounsel, along with, we also launched a lot of new workflows. And to me, an amazing next step is being able to now, as you're doing work in CoCounsel, call on the deep research agents to fuel that work. And we already showed some sneak peeks to talk about moving fast, right? So we just did a big launch of CoCounsel Legal. We launched all of these agentic guided workflows. We launched deep research. And then in the session we're having in our suite, I'm showing a sneak peek up to agentic orchestration of CoCounsel itself coming down in the next couple of months. So it's, you know, it's just constantly, I mean, it makes it so fun to be in development, but it's, here's our launch, here's where we're headed next.
Here's the next.
Yeah. And then it will change before you get there.
Yeah.
Which keeps us all.
I think that's the challenge for providers, but also the buyers of technology is change has always been constant. It's always that. Everyone says that, but ultimately, I've never seen this market change so much so quickly.
It's interesting. It can be difficult to balance, right? Because you want to ensure that your users and your customers are getting the best and the newest and the latest, and that also you're not being seen as behind. Yeah. And yet they'll tell us, don't change it. I just rolled it out. I just did a certification.
Exactly.
And so
we just trained out
how to do that well. We brought on a much larger customer success organization. So you were with Thomson Reuters years ago. That was the place we always had, you know, resources, but it wasn't a big organization. Yeah. It's now a big organization and part of how we operate. It has to be.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's a different way.
And it's really interesting. Question for you guys in terms of next steps. So sort of the orchestration of workflows together and that combination. So in the context of CoCounsel and surfacing information inside of CoCounsel and what that's doing, how are you seeing sort of the connected process? So multiple workflows. So a lawyer needs to go from A to B or 1 to 20, and steps 4, 5, and 6 are inside of CoCounsel. How are you seeing the progression of what you might need to connect to beyond that? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So talk about it from kind of two things. One, surfaces, and two, data.
Yeah.
And so when you look at any workflow, a user may just naturally want to be in different services throughout that workflow. Particularly, sometimes it spans days, right? Yeah. It's not like you literally do one thing and then you draft the next day. And so we're trying to make sure is one, all of our generative AI capabilities are available from within CoCounsel as a service, as a web application. Yep. But that for something like deep research, where you're going to do a lot of additional verification and really need to use the capabilities of a rich platform like Westlaw, that there's a seamless way to get from one to the other. And that's not just Thomson Reuters products and services, but also, you know, we've got integrations through the plugin technology with Word, with Outlook, with Teams. We've got integrations now on the data side with SharePoint, with DMS, like I managed, Net Documents, and then other products like IQ without Thomson Reuters owns. And so we're trying to ensure that connective tissue. We have a head start in some ways because we do own a number of services that lawyers are working in today, but also not to be precious about it. And so Mike and I talk about, you know, the future, and we believe that Westlaw and Word and legal assistants like CoCounsel will remain incredibly important. At some point, other services, you may just be able to send, you know, the operator agent over to go do the tasks it needs to do. So it's something we're looking at constantly evolving.
from our background, that's where we see. So we don't have a digital assistant in the platform, but we have the idea of this concept of orchestration. So tying things together, and it's really interesting, sort of the market in terms of those little niche plays, what people are doing. I think the organisation that is TR, with those different layers of lawyer work and platforms, bringing those together is really important. So I get it. Let's go back to ILTACON itself. So I'm going to do a quick round. So I've been to 12 ILTACONs now. I don't know how many you've been to, Mike.
More than I can remember. So
okay.
I don't have a number.
You
but...
beat me then. That's not good. I like winning. So, okay. Emily?
Yeah, so you beat me, but for sure.
Okay.
So I have been to only 3 ILTAs.
Oh, wow.
I know, it sounds crazy, right? So last year, my team went. I think I was on a family holiday. But the year before had been my first.
Okay.
And the reason really was, so before this, back then, I was working with Practical Law for many years. I joined Thomson Reuters for Practical Law acquisition. Before that, I was an M&A lawyer. So not going to ILTA as an M&A lawyer. But with Practical Law, our customer base wasn't really here.
Yeah, exactly.
And while the buyers may be here, they were buying Practical Law together with Westlaw, and it wasn't really a rich kind of customer environment for me. So it was really just would have been coming from my own excitement, which would have been worth it. I don't. Thomson Reuters probably wasn't going to send me just for that. So I was excited when finally it was Practical Law was launching our first large language model features, which was my first time with Bert at the time. It's back in the old days now. But no, I think now ILTACON is part of what we do and our fabric, and so it's exciting. Now that I lead co-counsel, of course, it's one of the most important conferences that you can go to.
Yeah, definitely. And it's one of those things. I often talk about ILTA as being sort of that week where my kids say I go on holiday, which is not true, but I am in a different country, so it sort of is true. But it's the whole, for me, it's the chance to connect with just community, people, clients, prospects, other vendors, because we're like this one big little sort of bubble that we exist in, and it's I think it's just one of those big.
Yeah, it's a great place to connect.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was telling somebody at dinner last night. So my first ILTACON, my favorite venue was in Vegas. Not my favorite because I love Vegas. I actually don't. But at the place where we had ILTACON, there was also a psycho death metal convention going on, which led to just amazing people watching.
Yeah.
And to see the legal tech folk get together with the death metal.
Well,
was pretty special.
That's just what ILTA's about, I mean, so what's your favorite ILTA location where you've been so far? So if you've done here, you've done Nashville.
Yeah. Vegas made it different in kind of a fun way.
Yeah.
But this is easier for me. I live on the East Coast.
There you go.
I kind of like mixing it up, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's a good thing.
I tend not to go outside the conference, so it's like it always feels the same because in location wise, because I'm always in a hotel or conference rooms and that sort of thing. But Nashville's great.
Yeah,
DC is great. So.
Yeah, my favorite's Nashville. I'm going to say that out loud, only because I am on holidays, so I like to go to see the music and also work hard and do all of that stuff. But I spend the week sort of burning the candle at both ends. So that's what I do. Guys, thank you very much for taking the time. It's been a real pleasure to chat to you about sort of the latest and greatest, what's going on. I sort of do miss being in TR a little bit.
Well, come back anytime.
Yeah, thank you. But I think it's one of those things. You guys are doing great stuff, and it's really, as you said earlier, it's that the pace of change is real, and you guys are leading that, and it's great to see. So,
thank you, Ben.
No, thank you very much.
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Turn to the camera.
I live in Chicago.
Really?
Chicago, yeah. I fly all over the world, but I live in Chicago.
I would have guessed the South.
No.
All
I
right.
grew up in Tennessee when I was little, though.
Maybe.
I did.
Maybe that's it.
But they
All
they
right.
say that I've I don't know. My daughter says you can take the man out of Tennessee, but can't take Tennessee out of the
I
man.
guess not. So when we go to Nashville, does it feel like coming home? Or?
Oh yeah, I love that. I mean, I haven't been there in so long, so whenever I go, it's like I want to go see. But
Yeah.
I grew up very poor and very small, so it's cool.
It's Tennessee's a fun place.
Yeah, it's cool.
Nature's
So what about you?
beautiful.
Where do you live?
I'm in North Carolina, so
Really?
I'm not too
Yeah,
far.
right next to
Yeah.
it. Yeah, you guys always actually had like North Carolina envy because you guys had the mountains.
It has just blown me away every time.
You would love it.
I so badly want to go back.
If you come by, if next time you're over, just let us know. We'll host you, and you would just you'll die with how many beautiful things there are to see.
Hey, say less. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful city. I just absolutely adore, particularly the winter. I like it being cold. And North Carolina, we used to get snow when I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
We don't get that.
No, it's
No.
but there's no global warming.
Yeah, right.
But when you come to Chicago, we got all 4 seasons, which is nice. But something about it in the city is very quaint.
Yeah,
it's very quaint. Sorry, we're done. Yeah,
Oh,
wait,
yeah.
sorry, we're just hanging.
Oh, sorry. We're just chatting. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm super excited to talk to you. It's going to be fun. We got
Yeah.
to chat a little bit before we just started.
Yeah.
And so I guess if you want to introduce yourself, then I'll introduce myself and we'll go from there.
Well, my name is Ahmed Shaban. I'm the managing director of Fulcrum, its founder. Fulcrum Global Technologies has been around for about 14 years now. And our solutions are pretty much focused on the business of law side of the equation. And we're global and enjoying the high growth we have right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems like you guys are doing some great things that I want to talk about in just a little bit. I'm Michael. I'm the marketing manager at ILTA, and I'm super excited to sit down with you. So, I mean, let's dive right in. You guys have launched some really exciting things recently. Is there anything you can tell us about that?
Sure. I mean, a lot going on in our main core of business, focused on the business of law. You know, our vision has always been to get the end-to-end dialogue between the clients and law firms. So the entire enterprise dialogue going, not from a standpoint of communications on matters, but rather the business dialogue. So today's industries outside of legal, they all focus on electronic marketplaces and ways of automating the commercial aspects so that all you're really focused on is on the business side. That's what we're doing now here. We're, our goal is to have a law firm client order business or request business from a law firm and then have them exchange all the particulars associated with billing and finance and rates and things like that. And then that way that both the client and the law firm can focus on the 2 things that matter the most. The matter being sourced by lawyers and who in particular can deliver it and when. So, if you focus on what you're buying, you focus on when you get it. So that's launched very successfully now. We've got a number of law firms on our RapidX platform. We have clients on that side as well. We're paying bills through it. We're doing all kinds of things. So that's really nice. And that we'll see that really explode and materialize over the next 12 months. Actually, the rest of this year should be pretty phenomenal. We're at running Legal Like a Business coming up soon. And then I think the second thing that we're really excited about is we have a second booth here at the show where we're launched 9 new products, 9 new companies, and they're really very exciting. And they're focused on different dimensions of law, IP law, and compliance law, OCGs, things like that. It's really cool.
That's super cool. I mean, 9's not a small number. Obviously, there's a
No.
lot of really hard work that went into that. So you
Yeah.
got to be super proud.
Yeah.
I really want to get your take. Obviously, this year in the legal tech industry, we've seen AI. The conversation, the language that I hear a lot is that it's kind of matured, the conversation around AI. And now we're trying to find really strategic ways to use it and to implement it, make it seamless. Where do you kind of stand on that? What do you see these trends doing, and how's Fulcrum doing that?
So first of all, I think the only thing that's matured is the talk.
Yeah, maybe
the walk
so.
isn't there. Like there's definitely a lot of commoditization of AI.
Right.
I mean, even in our solutions, we offer your choice. So you can pick your poison if you want Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever. And all the different versions. So that part is commoditized, but really understanding large language models and the importance of the data. People always clamor, give me data so I can train my models. Well, very little validation going on, very little validation on the data side, very little validation in the requirements. And so what we're going to see coming over the next 24 months is the evolution of a lot of systems that we can point at, criticize, and really kind of try to fine tune them so that they mature. That's not fulcrum. That's what I think the industry is going to see. Our standpoint is we're investing very heavily in the competency. So, we spent some 10 million this summer, maybe 30 million over the course of this year, just as a talent magnet, getting the best and the brightest in, enforcing a lot of the user stories and requirements to be digested and really absorbed. So the large language models are definitely being accumulated and aggregated, and we're building them very solidly. But even then, once we do, we want to validate them. We want to really, kind of case harden the knowledge, and then we'll start working on populating data. So we released a bunch of solutions. Like I said, like we have one in OCGs and compliance. It's really exciting. Or one of my favorites is in the IP law.
Yeah.
Where we'll start to see the actual service and function evolve, and the outputs will be there. They'll be there. I mean, we're releasing them now, so people will be able to see them the rest of this year. But I think AI as a whole, what we're going to see now over the next 2 years is less talk about agentic this and AI that and LLMs, and more walk around having stuff that we can all look at, point at, criticize. Law firms are going to have to get in that mix. Going to have to invest too. So we're doing a lot of co-innovation with the law firms, and we're really excited about that. I think you'll see some good stuff in the next 12, 24 months.
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time. I'm really excited to see where AI goes. I know that I like what you said about maybe just the conversations matured. We're definitely still trying to figure out what's going on with it, and I love some of the stuff that you guys are doing. I want to talk a little bit about like the human aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
You've got a lot of people here at ILTACON. I've met a couple of them, and every single one has been like just top notch, super awesome.
Yeah.
So how do you optimize your team like that, right? You guys have a really phenomenal staff, just from the people here, really great. How do you foresee the role of legal professionals evolving in terms of team optimization?
So, it starts with culture.
Right,
Mike? I mean, we constantly invest in the culture. The culture has to, with so much to figure out and so much to learn and really transform in the space, we can't be having lots of migration in and out or immigration of staff. You can't deal with that. So we've got a really solid culture. Everybody's in it together. We take care of them very solidly. There's no the benefits, the comp, the optimization of error checking. Like, let people make mistakes and learn from them, so we can go ahead and bring it in. That is all kind of bedrock. And so what people get to focus on is their growth. And we're very rooted in the orthodox nature of technical skills. So we insist people be certified in everything they do. Insist that people be qualified with more implementations before they become client facing.
Right.
And then when you do that and they have battle scars, it really makes it very fertile. You can really grow. So I think that you're going to see that, from our organization, we brought on, I think, a couple hundred people just this summer. We've got about 100 plus here, right? I think 130, 140. So, I'm not sure people think we're big or small, fat or tall. I don't really care.
Right.
All I care about is that the core really continue to focus, let the culture support them and grow. And we handpick every one of them, bring them in. If they can't add to the culture, it's not really the best place for them. There's plenty of other places they can go to work here,
Yeah, absolutely. No. I mean, it's just the culture that you guys have built is clearly so fantastic. Like it really exudes whenever you just walk by the booth, either one of the booths.
Yeah.
It's really awesome. And I just, I got to say that I want to kind of, now that we've looked sort of towards the past, towards the present, what do you see as trends that you can predict in the future? And like, how does Fulcrum stay ahead of that, right? Because you guys are continuously doing that. What does that look like for you guys?
So, the latter question first, we're focused on listening to clients. Like law firms, our clients are law firms and legal departments. They're all kind of sorting this out together. Some of them definitely have a firm grasp on the wheel and they're running with it. Others, they struggle. There's a lot of transition. You have executive transition layers and so on where they're still trying to get their footing. But we constantly want to keep the listening ear, not just when we're in the sales process, but when we're in implementation process, when we go live, as we continue to service our clients through our updates, we always want to be listening, and that is essential for our co-innovation mentality. The second thing is, and that goes to your first question, very client focused, right? So don't forget what this is about. The end clients, the commercialization is still the partners, the law firm partners, bread and butter. So if we're focused on making sure that there's an extended amount of customer service, and if we're focused on doing really good listening so that we can constantly bring back more ideas, and then how do we stay ahead of it? Well, we take that pipeline of knowledge and that pipeline of thing, and we pump it into the culture, and people just get very excited. Launching 9 new companies. Let me tell you, these people talk about 1 or 2. It's great, but when then the money matters. So we're very liquid, but our focus is not just throwing capital at something that puts out a billboard. Rather, let the culture breed that, and then give them the ideas and let them take them and run with it. And it's been great. I think you'll see more of it. Where do we see things in the next 24 months? I think you see that as part of the maturity model, AI will start to solve all the technical tasks. That's easy. Like what AI can do really well, better than humans, is they can automate all the technical tasks that were once without the human error, and then that leaves the real business functionality, the bigger thinking, leaves it for us to really know how to use these models and then take it to the next level. So will they continue to do that? Sure. But right now, what you'll see is a lot of people automate the technical tasks for now, and we'll just continue to let the solutions speak for themselves and point at, criticize. We're always our biggest self-critics.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely are speaking for themselves. Like, I remember when AI first came out, it was a mess, right? We were all like, oh, this is going to help. And it didn't do as much as I wanted it to do. But as we've seen time progress, I've gotten the real pleasure of doing a couple different interviews with some of the startups here. And the one thing that I hear consistently is, well, I had this really big headache when I worked at a law firm. And so this helps solve that headache.
Yeah.
And that seems like the perfect thing for AI to do. And obviously, you guys' solutions, they speak for themselves. I like that you said that. I want to take just a quick break to see where can people go to learn more about Fulcrum.
I mean, well, first of all, if you're around here, please stop by the booth, stop by a number of events that we have. But like I said, we're highly customer focused. So there isn't anybody who can't check a QR code, hit our site, send an inquiry, and we will drop what we're doing for them. I mean, we deploy teams to site. We know that these decisions are very, very big. Look, frankly, any one of these firms that makes a decision to use one of our solutions, it's a bigger decision for them than it is for us. So what we want to do is flood them with attention, let their support, let their process for figuring this out be evaluated, support that, overdo it even, so that they can make a proper decision. So, just visit fulcrumgt.com, send an inquiry, come on, we rented a yacht, come on our yacht party, come visit us at the booth, give us a call. You can call me. I'll give you my number, 847-366-5522. We're all here for the clients, and that's our thing. So
absolutely. No, that's awesome. I mean, we always appreciate seeing you guys. I know I always do. Is there anything particular about Fulcrum that you want to cover? I mean, we've talked a little bit about some of the 9 new companies. You said a couple of them are your favorites. Do you want to go in depth on those?
Maybe, but before I do that, I want to say one thing.
Yeah.
Something about Fulcrum. We're really about this legal community growing together. Like, you can't sit there and just draw lines at every vendor out here. Okay.
Right.
We like partnership, but partnership doesn't work without an ecosystem where we're all healthy, like where you got to have together. So in that regard, one of the things I want to say is I really appreciate what ILTA does, because ILTA kind of facilitates that community. In effect, it's got its own culture. It's trying so hard to keep up, which is not easy. It's a lot of volunteers. It's a lot of extended effort. So we're incredibly grateful for having this platform, this forum, to be able to have these conversations, the stuff that you do, all this, so much work. It's a big, giant movie production. So that's a big deal to us. I think, as a whole, that's why we insist to be such big sponsors, because we need to support what you guys are doing. We want to continue to do that. In general, it's our culture, it's our ethos, and more collaboration, more partnership. And so, and as far as some of the solutions we have 2 non-legal solutions. We have 7 legal solutions. We use them to really develop the algorithms. So you want to go over there and see we got a solution for dating. We got a solution for auto modifications. And then we've got stuff for IP law and determining the valuations of IP, like patents and trademarks. We've got one that really focuses on on OCG and compliance and automating that entire life cycle. There's a number of them. There's so many I want to talk about, and I think it's better to go ahead and let those things come over time, and hopefully we get the visitors to talk about it.
Oh, I know that you absolutely will. No, I really appreciate what you said about ILTA. Absolutely, like ILTA is peer powered. We couldn't do this without our volunteers. So as always want to give a massive shout out to our volunteers and everybody that helps makes this work. You guys included. You guys are absolutely phenomenal, and we're just grateful to all be a part of it. So you've talked about having a healthy legal tech ecosystem, having a good company culture, a lot of stuff about growth mindset. So where does all that come from, right? A lot of stuff about growth, a lot of stuff about cultivating a good work relationship. Where does that come from?
I think part of it comes from coming into legal from outside of legal 10, 15 years ago. What happened is we really come in and you see an industry where there's tons of point solutions, tons of little things that aren't necessarily enterprise grade, and seeing lawyers who are some of the, it is what it is. They're some of the smartest, most brilliant people. Academically, they're achieved, they're brilliant thinkers. And then, and they really they always take, because they're all owners of their firms, they always take a cut of what they do and spend it. So when people are spending that money, especially vendors are taking that money, they're taking straight out of the partner's pocket. So it's really important to realize and recognize that they need to have something that's enterprise grade, that can sustainable, and that can grow foundationally with the change in technology. So when you recognize how much technology changes, its dynamics,
right,
and then you also see with it in an industry that's ripe for this kind of change, and they're subjected to it, it's critical to be able to come in and bring those foundational values. So we always knew that if we wanted to get, because I remember when I first called ILTA the very first time, I was taking a 10 by 10 booth in the corner or whatever. And I had to beg to even get one. And I told them, we will be your biggest sponsor. You'll see, because we're not going to shy away from the foundation. The foundation is make sure that you understand, customers know that they're first. Make sure that the enterprise and the ecosystem knows that they can have an investment from us in education and awareness, and that we're empathetic to the changes and the speed of those changes. Make sure that as a whole, when we bring our solutions to the table, that we're bringing them with the full willingness to take the criticism and make them better. But they have foundation components that make it easy to make those changes. And then, of course, really, really solid tech built on a really, really solid foundation of a company and its culture. So, we're not going anywhere. We continue to grow. We have very, 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 very little turnover, like if any. Right. And we're not just like dialed in for dollars. It's really about it. So I think for us, we feel like there's a true partnership and a spirit of partnership all the time. And if we can't find that partnership, we actually don't necessarily want to engage. It's not a good idea. We don't want to fake it.
There's a wisdom in that. I think that's just a good way to conduct yourself. And it just makes sure that everything is on the up and up, keeps running well, that everything, clearly that culture's worked for you.
Yeah.
Right? I'm pointing to your booth for those of you that are watching. It's over that way, so I'm trying to point to it. No, it's really, really great. And I got to say, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for sitting down. And
it's been great.
I can't wait to walk back over and see what's going on.
Yeah, come on. I'll show you a couple of myself.
Yeah,
let's go.
Absolutely.
Thank you again. Thank you for giving us a chance to spotlight it. And in general, just please keep up what you guys are doing. Let us know how we can help you. It's been wonderful.
That means the world. Hey, thank you so much.
Take care, bro.
Take care.
Appreciate it. Thanks. See you.